Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Hello everybody and welcome to my workshop, my center of operations. I've been working on a project over the last few weeks or so on turning this $60 computer I got on eBay into a gaming machine. The project has actually been very fruitful. It's taught me a lot. The process of documenting it on this camera has actually taught me a lot about how to better position the flow of my videos and what I should be recording, what I shouldn't be recording. So I kind of struggled with the intro to this video a few times over and I didn't quite get it right. So I've kind of just thrown all that out. The rest of the video, me putting everything together and showing the actual system off, that turned out okay. So we're gonna go ahead and keep that and I'm gonna replace this part here. So this is future me. Let's go ahead and get into this video where we check out this HP machine that I got on eBay. We're going to check out the transformation of it into a gaming PC. So I hope you guys all enjoy the video, and here we go. So it's an HP ProDesk 600 G1 SFF. The SFF stands for small form factor. The reason this was an issue in the first place at all, because it's the SFF form factor, it will only accept a GPU profile, of which I did have one in the shop, but it's an NVIDIA GT710, which isn't exactly a very powerful GPU. So I also have a GTX 970, and that is the GPU that I wanted to put. I cracked open a case that I knew would fit the GPU, and I attempted to put all the parts in it. It was another HP case, but it's from a time, HP's all over the place in about decade periods. So like, if you look at an HP computer that from 10 years ago and compared to what HP has now, they're totally different looking machines. And the tooling is different. They don't even use regular CD-ROM drives anymore if they do have a CD-ROM. Like, just everything is completely different in PC cases, let alone how HP or Dell or Lenovo or any of those guys do their cases. But I digress. To make a longer story short, basically, I got everything out to put it in that other case, and I could not get it in there. Yeah, so I got everything in there, but there's two issues, and I kind of want to highlight those now, actually. So now, if we set this on the desk and we take a really good look at it, which you probably don't notice right away. So, as you'll notice, these posts right here actually are up here. So these four, 1, 2, 4, those posts right there actually hold the CPU. It ended up being a huge issue because I either have to cut these out and use those to retain the CPU, which I would have done, but I didn't have to do. Luckily, I had some 6-32 thread nuts. I don't know whether to call it. They're not exactly 630 seconds because it's metric. So anyways, I had some standoffs that were the right threading. So I ended up using those to get the CPU cooler to stay on. And then the other issue also, if you look back here, there is not a back plate in here. But in the case of one of these particular computers, that really wasn't going to work out for us anyways, because as we can see back here, if we look here, and I will also get another shot here as well, this motherboard backplate is permanently attached to this case. So that was another thing that I had to do. And then outside of that, as we can see here on this power supply, these are the power supply connectors. Yeah, this and this flat one right here. And then this was the front panel connector as well, which is also, so that's power. That's for your power button and stuff, which is its own proprietary format. But luckily, we were able to trace those lines and everything. So, but and I'll link the item down below as well. God, man, just stay where I need you. Anyhow, I'll link the item down below. I had to get a special kind of a power adapter. A lot of these different systems actually use this same method, so it'll work for a few of the different optiplexes and stuff. Make sure that it does work with your model if you were trying to do this. You do want to make sure that if you're going to use anything that deals with power, that it's made for the device you're trying to plug it into, because you do not want to catch anything on fire. But anyways, once I had finally solved the power issues and everything, a buddy of mine was getting a new computer built, so we were able to use this nice Roswell case. It's a dual chamber case. It allowed for some RGB, some better airflow. It also allowed us to get that GPU in there. So, yeah. And anyhow, after we got everything together, it let us get the GPU in there. We finally had what essentially is a sub $400 gaming PC. So I went ahead and built it. So here, anyhow, here's some footage of me putting everything together. Once I finally got the GPU in it, I noticed one last flaw. This was the last thing I had to deal with. It's kind of minor if you don't care about your front panel USBs being USB 3.0, but I do. So I wanted to use the USB 3.0 front panels on this case. So I had to get a USB controller card that had the 20-pin header on it, because the graphics card conveniently covers up right where that pin header is. But other than that, the build went off without a problem. As you can see, everything went in. It was fairly straightforward. It was like building any other computer once I had figured out those roadblocks and everything. And so once I got everything on and running, I realized that this machine was far more capable than I wanted to give it credit for at first anyway. So we threw it all together. Once we had it all together, what we had was a nice little gaming setup. So now what we have here, which I'll show you a little bit of footage of me going back and forth over it here a little bit with the GoPro. So what we have here now is a nice system with an i7 4790K. Yes, it's an overclockable CPU and an unclockable motherboard, but I had it laying around. It was better than the i5 4590 I originally had. It's not going to make a huge difference, and in games it's going to help a lot, so I would suggest they make an unoverclockable version of the i7 that you can get for maybe $20-30 more for the system, which isn't terrible. But anyhow, so we have an i7 4790K, 8 gigs of RAM, 500 gig SSD, and we have a GTX 970. So I went ahead and threw some games on here, and we'll go ahead and take a look at those now. Fortnite went off great. This is at 1080p medium settings. I'm running it on DirectX 11 just because it's a GTX 970 and DirectX 12's in beta anyways, so I didn't want to give the computer anything else that it had to deal with. I wanted to see some, I obviously wanted to see some success here. So as you can see here though, we got about an average of 100 FPS. The 1% lows were at around 71 or so. I think once it dipped to like 68 when I was loading in. It really wasn't too much of an issue. Once I was in like Battle Royale and solos, once I was loaded in, there was no issues whatsoever. It was perfectly playable. 1% lows of 71 are not terrible. That means you're not going to feel things loading in as much. You're not going to have a lot of that glitchiness. So once I played Fortnite, I went ahead and moved on to another game. Fortnite is a little more graphically intensive than the next game, but still, I figured this is what most of you will probably be playing on a system like this. So I wanted to go after a few different games and kind of spread it around a little bit. So the next up is another Epic title, and that's just because that's what I had installed, and that's the easiest thing to test, is Rocket League. So Rocket League did really well. Once I had it set to 1080p, I had it on high settings, high everything except for motion blur, because motion blur. Anyways, so once I was in the game, we had an average FPS of 215 and 1% lows of 168, which is not terrible at all. That means it never dipped below 160. This game is perfectly playable on this machine. You could do high refresh rate monitor. For sure, you're pumping enough frames for it to be usable. You could even get a 165 hertz monitor with this setup, and you're gonna get every frame coming through to your monitor. So that's gonna help you with reaction times and other things like that. So I was really glad to see something that's under $400, mind you. All right, moving on now that I've had a wardrobe change and it's a new day, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next game that I tested here, which was Star Wars Squadrons. This game actually ran a lot better than I had first anticipated it to, especially with the first person perspective of when you're in the cockpit with all the stuff going on, with all the space scenes and everything. So this was set to 1080p, high settings, and we were getting an average of about 115 FPS with 1% lows around 84, which is perfectly acceptable and perfectly playable.
Check that shit next.
I really had fun actually checking out this game. I haven't had a lot of time to play it in the past, and I really didn't get any time to go past the tutorial this time around either, but I was really happy with the performance. I have not really had a chance to play this game a whole lot, but I was really happy with the performance on this machine. A quick note before I get into the overview of this whole project here. Originally, I did try to record the video game footage on the device itself, so I tried to run OBS and then also play the game on it. It did work, but the 1% lows were a lot lower, and so there was noticeable stutter. I'll go ahead and try to get some footage of that. I know I have some. I'll have to prune through it as I'm cutting this, but I know there were some noticeable stutters. So I'd say if you were trying to stream, this system isn't the system for you. Although I do run streams from this system, I'm running just the streams. I'm not doing any gaming or anything. It's usually just running like a podcast or these cameras, and I'm recording, but I'm not doing any gaming and recording. So if your intention is to play some esports games and stream them, with the exception of Rocket League here probably, I wouldn't recommend doing both. I would recommend getting a second cheaper system, because remember, I only got this first system off of eBay for $60. So you could get another one of those systems and just put a capture card in it and just have that run your stream, and then you could game off of this machine. That's another project for another day. That would be a whole other setup. But anyways, that's something to keep in mind. If you do want to stream, you're going to have to get just a little bit more of an expensive setup. I would recommend going with like an i7 base, 7th or 8th gen DDR4 memory, and a more recent graphics card, and then you would probably be okay to do some light streaming and gaming at the same time. When everything's said and done, you have everything together. What we have here is a sub $400 gaming machine that's perfectly capable of playing a couple of recent titles and games that are overall popular. You're not going to be able to run, say, like Elden Ring at high settings at 1080p. I don't own that game yet to test it. I have been considering picking it up because of how brutal it is on graphical hardware. It's kind of the new crisis of this month. Anyways, it seems like every couple of months we have a new game coming out that's harder and harder on graphic hardware. But anyways, you have a pretty decent gaming machine here. The overall price, which I will figure out and put on the screen somewhere here, is not a bad deal. So overall, you're paying, like I said, less than $400 for a perfectly capable machine, especially for esports gaming, emulators, anything like that. Office productivity, you might even be able to do some light video editing on here, but again, I would probably stay in the realm of trying to edit 720 or 1080p. It's definitely not going to edit 4K or anything like that. What we started with, we go back to earlier in the video, what we started with was an HP ProDesk 600 G1 SFF. So what we're left with here is this custom gaming computer with a Core i7 4790K and a GTX 970 and a 500 gigabyte SSD that's perfectly capable of doing anything that you needed to do for entertainment, especially if any of the games that we played here are games that you enjoy, this is going to be able to play probably 70% of the Steam library, if not more than that. So if you want to do a project like this, go ahead and check out some of our links below. If you've already built a system like this, please get a hold of me. I want to see some of these systems. You know what I mean? They might not be as relevant, and depending on the price they're going to pay. Like I said, if you already have a computer like this, or you catch one at a super good deal, after about the $400 mark, there are systems out there that you can get that are probably going to outperform a system like this. But that graphics card does make a huge difference. So like I said, check out the link below if you want to follow some of the parts that I got for this build, or you want to build your own. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. It's been a long-winded one, I know. They always are though, aren't they? Thanks for watching the video. I do appreciate you guys. You all have a good day, and we'll see you in the next one.